He carried a boy king into the sky, and the boy became the greatest king House Targaryen ever made. He slept in a volcano for 29 years after that king died. And when the realm broke and pulled him back into the war, he was claimed by a blacksmith, crowned by a prophecy, and killed on a burning field while his mate of 60 years circled alone in the sky above him. Welcome to Westeros Within, where we journey into forgotten ages, hidden legends, and ancient mysteries. This is Dragons of Westeros, Episode 6, Vermithor, the Bronze Fury. The old tales say he was hatched on Dragonstone in the earliest years after the conquest, when the Targaryens were still learning how to be kings. His body was bronze, his wings were great sheets of tan, his eyes burned like coals in the forge. No chronicle records the year of his hatching. What they record is that a dragon egg had been placed in the cradle of a prince named Jaehaerys, grandson of the Conqueror, and that by the time Jaehaerys was a boy, a young bronze dragon was waiting for him on Dragonstone. They grew together, and when Jaehaerys' uncle Maegor the Cruel seized the Iron Throne and drowned the realm in blood, the boy and the dragon went into hiding. For 6 years they waited in the shadow of Maegor's reign. Then Maegor was found dead upon the Iron Throne, cut open by the blades of his own seat, and the realm called for the boy. Jaehaerys was 14 years old when he came to King's Landing. He came on Vermithor, a boy on a bronze dragon, descending out of the sky over the Red Keep, already larger than any beast in the world save Balerion and Vhagar. The courtyard darkened beneath his wings. And for the next 55 years, through the longest reign any Targaryen king would ever know, the Bronze Fury would be the shadow beneath the Conciliator. He was not a dragon of fire in those years, he was a dragon of peace. He carried Jaehaerys to Oldtown and to Winterfell. He landed in the gardens of Highgarden. He rested on the cliffs above Shipbreaker Bay. When the king rode his progresses through the Seven Kingdoms, Vermithor was the shape in the sky that told the lords below that their king had come. And in the dragon pits of the Red Keep, he coiled together with a silver she-dragon named Silverwing, the mount of Jaehaerys' sister Queen Alysanne. The chronicles began to speak of them as a mated pair. For 60 years, the two of them were rarely apart. Only once under Jaehaerys, the Bronze Fury was loosed for war. In the Fourth Dornish War, a Dornish fleet sailed against the Stormlands, and the Old King answered it in the sky. Prince Aemon rode Caraxes. Prince Balon rode Vhagar. Jaehaerys rode Vermithor. 3 of the greatest living dragons in the world descended on the fleet together, and the war lasted a single day. Scorpion bolts flew up. None pierced a scale. Dornish ships burned to the waterline. Dornish soldiers drowned in their armor. The Sea of Dawn was lit like a furnace from one horizon to the other, and by nightfall it was done. Then Vermithor went home to peace. He watched the old king build an empire. He watched the King's Road rise stone by stone. He watched the birth of Jaehaerys' many children and the slow grief of burying most of them. He was there when the Great Council of 101 AC denied the throne to the old king's granddaughter Rhaenys and gave it to Viserys instead. The dragon saw a golden age begin, and he saw the first cracks open in the foundation of the house he served. And then Jaehaerys died. 55 years on the Iron Throne, the longest reign in Targaryen history. He passed in his bed in the Red Keep in the year 103 AC, his granddaughter at his side. He was 69, Vermithor was near 70. For the first time since the dragon had been a cradle beast, there was no rider. And on Dragonstone, he withdrew. He flew home across the narrow sea, climbed into the smoking caverns of the Dragonmont, the ancient volcano at the heart of the island, and stayed. 29 years he stayed. Small folk learned not to cross that side of the mountain. Visitors to Dragonstone were told, in lowered voices, that the old king's dragon slept in the smoke, and any man who troubled him would not return. Generations came and went above his sleeping head. The Golden Age turned bronze, and then rust, and then blood. The Bronze Fury lay in the mountain, waiting for a king who was not coming back. In the year 129 AC, the Dance of the Dragons broke the realm, and they came for him. Queen Rhaenyra's heir, Prince Jaehaerys Velaryon, called for the dragon seeds. Any soul of Valyrian blood on Dragonstone, no matter how mean their birth, was invited to try to claim an unridden dragon. The singers called it the sowing of the seeds. The histories would remember it as the Red Sowing because of what it cost. Many came, many burned. A lord of the Crownlands named Gorman Massey walked into the smoke of the Dragonmont, the boldest man among the petitioners. Vermithor opened one amber eye, and the lord was reduced to ash before his guards could turn their heads. Other men tried, other men fled. Knights and hedge sons climbed into the smoke and climbed out again as shadows in the wind. And then a blacksmith's bastard walked up the mountain. His name was Hugh Hammer. Some called him Hard Hugh. He was a giant of a man, born in the mud of Dragonstone, with old Valyrian blood running thin and quiet in his veins from generations of sailors and small folk. His hands could twist steel bars. A warhammer hung at his belt. He walked through the bodies of his betters and put his hand on Vermithor's snout. The dragon remembered what a rider felt like. He bent his neck, and Hugh Hammer, bastard of the Forge, climbed onto the back of the greatest living dragon in Westeros, save only Vhagar. He fought for the Blacks at first. In the waters of the Gullet, when a Triarchy fleet came across the narrow sea, Vermithor rose in the service of Queen Rhaenyra and shattered their ships in the salt spray. For one battle, the Bronze Fury was a loyal weapon. But Hugh had not climbed the mountain to serve. He had climbed it to be served. Among his followers, a prophecy began to pass from lip to lip. A king shall arise when a hammer falls upon a dragon. Hugh heard it, Hugh kept it, and he had a black iron crown forged in his own camp. He would wear that crown at Tumbleton. The Blacks sent him there with another dragon seed, a man named Ulf White, who had claimed Silverwing by a cruel symmetry of fate. They were meant to break the Green Army marching on King's Landing under Lord Ormond Hightower. And break it they did. In the First Battle of Tumbleton, the Winter Wolves of the North killed Ormond Hightower on the field, and the defenders of the town believed the day was theirs. Then the Bronze Fury and the Silver Queen rose over the rooftops together, and they turned. Vermithor and Silverwing, the dragons of Jaehaerys and Alysanne, the dragons who had flown wingtip to wingtip over half a century of peace, rained fire down on the town they had been sent to save. Buildings burned to the stones, thousands died where they stood, and thousands more drowned in the River Mander trying to run from the flames. The chronicles named the act the Treasons of Tumbleton. They named the men the two betrayers. In the ashes of his victory, Hugh Hammer put the black iron crown upon his head and told his men he was a king. He had perhaps a day. At dawn, a black army arrived to retake the town, and Hugh ran through the camp toward his dragon. He never reached him. Sir John Roxton of the Green Loyalists stepped into his path with a Valyrian steel blade called Orphan Maker, and he cut the blacksmith down in the mud before the Bronze Fury had even opened his eyes. Hugh's crown was still in his tent when he died, and then the knights came for the sleeping dragon. 200 of them. 40 men who believed they could kill Vermithor while he lay half asleep in the camp. They charged him with lances and swords. Vermithor opened one amber eye, and in the breath that followed, the 40 were ash across the field. He rose out of their bones, bleeding from their spears, enraged in a way he had not been allowed to be in 100 years. He lifted off the ground. He climbed to 20 feet. And Seasmoke, the pale grey dragon of Adam Velaryon, came down on him out of the sky. They tangled in the air and crashed together across the field, so thoroughly knotted that neither could break free. They rolled in a burning ruin of scale and fire. The witnesses said Vermithor would have torn Seasmoke apart on his own. He was older, he was larger, he was a century of fury finally loosed, but Seasmoke was not alone. Out of the sky came Tessarion, the blue dragon of Prince Daeron Targaryen, and she hurled herself into the brawl. 3 dragons on the ground, a mountain of scale and burning wings on a burning field. And men, green and black alike, ran in with spears and stabbed at anything they could reach. The Bronze Fury found Seasmoke's throat and crushed the smaller grey dragon until Seasmoke was dead. It was his last kill. Bleeding from a dozen wounds, Vermithor collapsed beside the body of his victim. His heart, 100 years old, gave out. Tessarion beat her blue wings 3 times trying to take flight, and 3 times she failed, and a black archer named Billy Burley put an arrow through her eye to end her. 3 dragons, 3 deaths, in less than an hour, and only 1 dragon was left above the field. Silverwing had been in the sky since the fighting began. Ulf White had been too drunk to mount her, and the she-dragon had lifted alone and circled above the burning town while the brawl played out beneath her. She did not come down by day, she came down that night. The singers tell that she walked to Vermithor's body in the dark, that she lowered her silver head and slid her nose beneath his wing and tried to lift it, that she tried a second time, that she tried a third time, and when the wing did not rise, she lay down beside him in the ashes and did not move until morning. The chronicles call it likely a fable. They preserve it anyway, because sometimes a fable is the only honest thing left. So tell me this, do you think Silverwing truly tried to lift his wing? Write it in the comments. And if you want more stories from the Dragons of Westeros, the ones who rose in the Golden Age and the ones who fell in the burning of it, subscribe to Westeros Within and join me for the next chapter. Because next time, we follow the silver she-dragon of the Good Queen. The dragon who flew beside Vermithor for 60 years. The dragon who came down in the dark at Tumbleton and tried to lift her mate's wing. And the dragon who, long before any of it, refused 3 times to cross a wall of ice at the top of the world. Her name was Silverwing, and the old tales say she knew a cold older than dragonfire.